Okay, all right. Hi, everybody. Welcome from my kitchen today. I'm Marla Ryan, and we have the nutrition team here with us today. So it's me, Arielle Januszkiewicz, and Caryn Hufford. Arielle and I are community nutrition educators with FeedMore, and Caryn is our nutrition resource manager. So today, with making healthy choices, we're just going to be discussing some tips and some different resources that we have that we can assist you with offering clients their choice of healthy options. And especially during this time, we know that's a little bit difficult. So we're just going to go through some updates. We're going to go through some feedback that we received from you and ways that your suggestions have been implemented. We're going to talk a little bit about identifying healthy options, some of our foods that we encourage. We're going to go through food groups a little bit and ways to offer choice while we're still staying safe and protected, both at our food pantries. And we'll talk a little bit about recipes and different things that we can use at our soup kitchens and some tips for that too. So to kick it off, we're actually going to do just a little bit of a recipe demonstration with a showcasing of 2 recipes that we'll be able to use featuring ingredients that we currently have on our shopping list. So these are the 2 recipes that we're gonna make today. I already got them started, so we won't go too long on these, but I just wanted to show them off a little bit. So we have our fall chicken salad and a Tex-Mex hamburger macaroni. So I like both of these recipes because they're really versatile. You can use them with a lot of ingredients that we have on our shopping list, but you can also kind of mix and match and use things that you might already have in your pantry. So you can pass these recipes out. If you are a food pantry, you can pass them out with a lot of different ingredients that you might already have on your shelves or things that you can get off the shopping list currently. So the first recipe that I'm going to do is our Tex-Mex hamburger macaroni. So we can actually flip off of sharing the screen. Thank you. So hopefully everybody can see me a little better. So this recipe, you can use it with ground beef, but I actually made it today with tofu because we do have tofu on the shopping list. And I know tofu can be a little bit elusive. So I wanted to show everybody a fun recipe that you can make with it and some of the benefits of it. So to get started, I actually cooked up the tofu. So this is what it looks like. So I like this because it can be a replacement for ground beef, which we could do this every once in a while. And this is gonna limit the saturated fat we eat. This is also a very good source of protein. So tofu is awesome to mix in there every once in a while for a meatless meal. But what I did with this, and I'm going to show after I show off the recipe, is how to drain tofu. And just because that's actually the first step to making it taste delicious and not so bland. So I'm going to show that. But I drained this tofu, then I just cooked it on the stove with a little bit of taco seasoning, which I just used a packet. I like the ones that have less sodium. But if you don't have one of those, on the back of our recipe, which we are going to email everyone the recipe, is a homemade taco seasoning that you could also make. So everybody that's on here, we will email out the recipes. But if you are interested in getting more recipes from us that use ingredients from the shopping list, or if you would like some of these recipes printed and delivered to you, we can also discuss that. So our contact information will be available at the end of the presentation. We'll have it up for a little while, so you can write that down. You can give us a call or email us anytime if you want more recipes. But so I cooked this on the stove, and then let me grab the rest of the meal. All right, so here we have elbow macaroni noodles. We've got diced tomatoes, black beans, corn, a little bit of tomato sauce I made it with. And then you throw all of this into the pot with just about a cup of water, and you just turn it on, let it come to a boil, and then turn it down to a lower heat. It cooks all together. That's when I add a little more of that taco seasoning in there. And it all comes together into this little delicious meal. So what I'm gonna do now is just stir in the rest of our tofu. And we've got cheese, which is gonna make this extra delicious. So you could use like a taco blend cheese or a Mexican blend, or you could use just some cheddar cheese. And while your meal is still warm, when you stir it right in, it should melt. Be delicious here. So we'll just mix this up. And I also like this recipe too because a lot of it is canned. You could throw different canned goods in there if you have something else you like a mixed vegetable or something like that. But I feel like we always have black beans available, so those are delicious in there. Corn is a staple on our shopping list too, so these are good ingredients that we can throw in there. So you can see the cheese is kind of melting. This is when I would say taste it, see if it needs any more seasoning or salt. But then this is really all set and ready to go. The last thing I have, which is completely optional, is just some fresh cilantro that I cut up. And I just think that adds a little extra pinch of flavor and some color to it. So this is a really fun one too that you can add extra ingredients too in your pantry that will really bulk up this meal too. And it's not too expensive, and it's all things we probably have at the pantry. And these are all things that you could kind of tell your clients too. If they're a little hesitant to grab a recipe or an ingredient, you can talk these up in the same way that I do. So now that one is all ready to go. What I'm gonna just show you now is how I prepare the tofu. So first, here's what tofu looks like when it comes in a package, and I already opened it. It might be hard to see, but it's actually in water. So it comes in water. So first, what we have to do with our tofu is drain it. And that is because when you drain out the water, it just allows those flavors to soak in. So what we want to do with that is, so we actually grab our tofu that's in water, we drain the water out of the package. Then I actually take some paper towels. You could use a very clean, fresh towel, regular towel if you wanted to, but I like to use paper towels. So I lay that down on one plate, grab our tofu out of the package. See, it's all wet, so I lay that down there. Then what I do is I wrap them around. So you put another plate on top just to stabilize it, and then I like to grab a bunch of cookbooks, but you could use anything else that's heavy. You could use like a skillet or a pan, and then you actually just kind of balance them on top, and you leave it there for about 20 minutes. And what that does is it just drains out all that water in the tofu. So like I said, when you're making it, the tofu can really absorb the flavors of the meal. And also if you were to be baking it, it'll make it nice and crispy. So that's why we drain out our tofu, but then I actually have one more to show. So this is one that I just drained out. So you can see it's much drier. It's not in the water anymore. And then one thing you can do with tofu is, well, there's actually a lot of things you can do, but I like to use it as a replacement for meat, like I said, because of the protein in there. It's got good calcium. You can also use it, you can kind of break it up like this. This is what I did for the meal that we just had. So it has kind of like a ground beef texture to it. Instead, you could slice it up into chunks. You could bake it. You could use it in like a curry. You could put it on top of a salad. It's just all kinds of ways to use it. When you crumble it like that, you can actually use it for breakfast in place of eggs. There's just all kinds of uses for that. So if anybody has questions about tofu, or if they want to buy it off the shopping list and get some recipes from us, please reach out to us. Then our second recipe I'm just going to show off quickly is a chicken salad, which is really delicious. Going to start with, so this recipe is canned chicken, which I took out of the can, drained, just broke up a little bit. So that's in this bowl. Then in this bowl, I just have some yogurt, which we also have yogurt on the shopping list right now. And then to that, we're just gonna add in some chopped fresh apples, some celery, just to add that crunch. We're gonna do some walnuts, a little bit of cheddar cheese, but this one, again, you could add anything that you kind of have to this. You could add dried fruit, you can add nuts, you could add lettuce to this. Anything that you kind of have on hand and want to use is great. We also have on the shopping list right now, we have a dried fruit and nut mix, which would be excellent if you wanted to pass out this recipe with the canned chicken, and the dried fruit and nut mix would be great. So I'm just gonna mix that up. I have some diced apples and celery, which you could also use grapes in this. You could use raisins. I think we have dried apricots on the shopping list right now. Any of those would work. I'm just gonna mix this up quick. Actually add in a dash of cinnamon as well, which really makes this nice and delicious for fall. Got that. Walnuts, which you could easily leave out if anyone has like a nut allergy or doesn't like them. And then I just like to do just a little pinch of some cheddar cheese. I'm gonna mix that up. And then this is good to go. You might add a little salt and pepper just to bring those flavors out. But I love this one also because you can eat this with crackers. You can eat it on a wrap. We always have wraps on the shopping list. I think we have crackers right now too. But with both these meals, they actually both cover almost all of our food groups, if not all of them. So we've got dairy with the yogurt and the cheese. We've got our fruits and veggies in there. Got our protein. And if you eat it with a wrap or some crackers, you're getting your grain. And of course, we like to recommend our whole grain. So I think right now the elbow macaroni on the shopping list is not whole grain, but if you do ever see some whole grains on our shopping list, we really recommend grabbing those. So we can actually go back to the slides, Arielle. Thank you. Perfect. All right. So that just shows a little bit. I checked the shopping list, and as we know, it's always changing a little bit, but we definitely have the canned chicken right now. We have yogurt, we have wraps, and we have the crackers for the fall salad. Other things you might want to throw in there that we have on our shopping list now, we have some really nice fresh greens that we've been getting in. So you could add those if you wanted to just eat this as a salad. That dried fruit and nut mix, the dried apricots. Those are all things that you could order and pair with this recipe. And for the TexMex macaroni, we've got the tofu. If there's ground beef on the shopping list, you could use that instead. Got the macaroni, corn, diced tomatoes, and black beans. Those are all awesome in that recipe. And then I also had an idea, if you had mac and cheese available instead of the elbow macaroni plus cheddar cheese, you could also make it that way. So that would replace both the noodles and the cheese, of course. So I actually typed up a recipe to make it in that way instead. It just changes a few things around, but it actually is very, very similar. So that could be an option too. Also, if you had maybe canned mixed vegetables or green beans or something like that, you could also throw those in with that recipe. And Arielle is actually going to touch on in a little bit how you can use these recipes in your pantries and maybe putting them in the pre-packed bags or offering some meal kits. So she'll go over that a little bit more. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. Thank you so much. So one last thing I just want to touch on is that through the Just Say Yes to Fruits and Vegetables program, we do our nutrition workshops. Some of you are probably familiar, but if anyone isn't, typically we do our in-person workshops. We have 16 different topics that we can cover. We usually cover a nutrition topic. We have a discussion. We make a recipe together, and then everyone gets to try it. We are interested now in starting maybe virtual workshops or very controlled in-person workshops as well. So if anyone is interested in that, please reach out to us. We'll probably figure it out on an individual basis, what might be the best route for that. But we are interested in possibly starting those up. So if anyone has a really good client base that they think would be interested in something like this, please let us know. And I think I will send this over to Caryn now. Thank you.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm just doing a brief interlude where I'm going to just discuss what healthy choices are. We talk a lot about healthy choices, healthy options, healthy eating, and I think sometimes, just in the world, people do get a bit confused about what that actually means. So I'm just doing what's probably really a refresher for most of you on what the components of healthy eating really consist of. So these are just some tips from my plate, which is kind of what we use as the basis for our nutrition education and advice that we give. It's really pretty simple stuff, but that can work for anybody in terms of increasing the amount of healthy options that you are incorporating into your daily diet. One of the tips is to focus on whole fruit. Now, we certainly are promoting canned and frozen fruits and veggies, as well as also healthy choices. Whole fruits, obviously wonderful, but when that's not available, there are certainly other options that will help meet that need. When it comes to vegetables, we talk about varying your vegetables. Often you'll hear the phrase, eat the rainbow of colors, which is just a good reminder to choose all different colors of vegetables as well as fruits in order to really benefit from all the various nutrients that are available in the different types. When it comes to whole grains, we also encourage whole grain as much as possible when you're making grain choices. So looking for things that have whole wheat or whole grain on the label as one of the first ingredients. Some other tips from my plate is to move to low-fat and non-fat dairy options when it comes to your yogurts, your cheeses, and your milks. And when it comes to protein, we also encourage a variety. Obviously, meat and beef and chicken are protein choices, but there's also fish, eggs, beans, tofu that we just saw as an excellent replacement for some of the typical animal-based proteins, and some other options. And again, choosing more of a variety is what's going to help you better get the full spectrum of nutrients that are available to us. The last tip from my plate is to just limit the sodium, saturated fat, and the added sugars that usually come with processed products. And then we want to just be limiting and reducing in our diets. So these are just general tips, but also tips that we're going to apply to the foods that we provide and offer and distribute in the recipes that we provide. We're going to kind of use these as our guiding principles. So in that respect, we all have foods that we encourage when it comes to our agencies and the things that we look to source here at the food bank. And the foods that we want to encourage, again, are fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as the canned, dried, and frozen. Look for things that are low in sodium, packed in juice rather than in syrups. We want to promote 100% whole grains when possible. So again, that's breads and cereals where whole grain is the first ingredient. Leaner sources of protein where the fat has been reduced somewhat or quite a bit. And then dairy that's low fat, non-fat, which is usually things that are unflavored and unsweetened, like a plain yogurt or regular milk as opposed to a sweetened milk product. Okay, so after that, a little plug for healthy eating. Arielle's going to go into much more detail about some of the updates that are things that are happening right now, as well as some of the projects that are occurring at this point in time.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Arielle Januszkiewicz, and I'm one of the community nutrition educators working alongside Marla. So we're really excited about the opportunities, in order to partner with you to bring our nutrition workshops and recipe demos back to you and your clients. So please reach out if you think you might have a safe and controlled environment where we could come to you, or if you're interested in exploring the virtual options. As you may have seen from, her demo there that she did, we're really used to moving and teaching as we do recipe demos and preparing foods. And so I'm not as used to just sitting straight and still as I teach. I'm a big hand talker too. So you might notice that I move around a little bit, but I'm going to do my best, to keep things to a minimum. But I'm really excited that I have the pleasure of covering some of the exciting announcements that we have to offer you based on updates to our shopping list. Everything that we've done is to improve your experience, and it's based on the feedback we received from all of our agencies that are shopping with us. But before I jump into all of that, I just wanted to point out my favorite column on our agency shopping list is actually the nutrition description, which I don't think we talk about very often. So I wanted to make sure that everyone here today knew that we actually have an internal nutrition policy where we evaluate all of the products that come into the warehouse and rank them appropriately. And so you can feel really good about the foods that you're ordering for your agency by just looking to see how many high or even medium ranked foods that you're bringing into your community. Studies actually show that the majority of people that access emergency food assistance programs are looking for these high nutrition foods. And so they're really relying on us for these healthy options, especially right now, you know, in this pandemic environment where the food prices have been fluctuating. And so it's a really helpful thing for them to be able to come to us and receive these highly nutritious foods. But on the following slides, like I said, I'll be reviewing the helpful information that we now have on the shopping list and the ways to access it. So just to start off, I want to bring your attention to the cute little graphics that we have on that left-hand corner of the slide. We created these to help just disseminate some information that we want to make sure that you have access to. So as an example, I did take a screenshot of our applesauce product that we have on the shopping list. I received quite a bit of feedback out in the community that it was a very confusing product, primarily because of the size of the pouches themselves. And so you'll notice that this product now has that camera icon where the product name is. You can either click on the camera or the numbers associated with the product on the left that are underlined in blue, which is exactly how you'll see it when you're ordering on the shopping list, to pull up the graphic that you see below. So that graphic itself has a picture icon and a written description just to really help you understand what this product is and how you can use it at your agency. The applesauce that we have to offer itself, it's a really good on-the-go snack. It's not actually an isolated baby food, which I know that some people were a little confused about that. So it's great, you know, for passing out for a really on-the-go healthy option. But it's also really wonderful if you just need a small amount of applesauce for maybe preparing a meatloaf, a hummus-based dish, or even in your baking. And so it can be a complement to the larger applesauce that we also have available for your agency. And then you'll see in the graphic itself, we have that like really cute, just bunches of grapes there to just let you know that this is a fruit categorized food group, and also tells you how many pouches count as a HipNap fruit choice, just in case you're substituting this option for a can of fruit. We also do recognize that some of the product names on our shopping list are confusing, which might end up preventing you from ordering them. Although it's our preference to make sure that the descriptions and the product names, you know, are as clear as possible, sometimes it's just not feasible. So we're taking the opportunity to again include the descriptor and the image to help you really understand the products that we have to offer. So highlighted here is the very infamous chicken boned can, which we did receive, you know, quite a few questions about, which we were thrilled to have, because we want you to reach out if there's ever a product that you're unsure about or unclear about, or just like plain doesn't make sense. So this is one of those opportunities where we're hoping to make sure that you have a better idea of what you're ordering and feel more comfortable. Again, you can click on either that camera icon or the numbers associated there on the left, and it will pull up the product details. The description just reads that the chicken has no bones, because it truly doesn't, I promise. And then here is just a larger view of the icon or that image that we uploaded itself. So it again is a reinforcer. It includes just, you know, a picture of the product label, because I know that this is a product that you guys are used to ordering and receiving, but it just doesn't seem like that with that product name line. And we also included, you know, again, recipes that are in association to other shopping list ingredients that we have available for you. Okay, and then we also did some updates to how we provide information with our dairy products. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable ordering, you know, refrigerated healthy options for your pantry. And so based on the feedback we received, we're making sure that we include the description that listed the printed best by date, in addition to the additional days that the food keeper says the food is still good to eat. So I want to reinforce, when you get a dairy product, that best by date that is printed on there, it's not actually an expiration date. That's more of just a flavor and quality date So it's not actually, a concern. You always, of course, want to check your dairy, make sure it's good, but it's not something you can't pass out past that date. And it has 7 to 14 days, to continue to be a really good tasting product for the most part, something that we feel very comfortable recommending and having you pass. And so now all of our yogurts will include those dates just to help you understand what you may want to either prioritize ordering, or if there's assorted flavors that you're looking for, you'll also find that in the descriptions. You'll see that the first yogurt listed here on the screenshot was listed yogurt plain, so you know exactly what you're getting. But the bottom two are both listed as yogurt assorted. Again, this is one of those instances where we didn't have the opportunity to rename the product itself, but you'll be able to see, it's a mix of either that vanilla and peach and blueberry, or the one below it there. If you match up those product numbers, the detail shows that it's a coffee flavored yogurt. So this will really help you, make choices based on the community members that you're serving and their possible preferences. And I just want to mention that for this instance, when it's just a product that has a descriptor, so at this time, the only products with descriptors are dairy products and then our baby food, it won't have that camera icon just because of the way the ordering program works itself. The platform isn't, as user-friendly at this time as we would hope it would be. So just try to remember that the information there is available, and we'll do our best to, give you reminders as well, just to make that ordering process as easy and simple as possible. Okay, and then last but not least might be what I'm most personally excited about. I can't help it because as part of my job, I really enjoy making sure that people get to go home with food that makes a meal. And so we are now promoting products and recipes so you can do a bundle-based order to ensure that your community members can make a meal with the foods you're receiving. So it is, we're promoting just a little bit more strategic ordering with these. Again, you'll see the cal is listed with that camera icon. You click on that and it has a small description just of what that cal is itself. And then I realized that the image could be a little small on the screen, so I'm going to enlarge it to make it easier to see. And we're promoting a sauteed cal with dried fruit and nuts. So right now on our shopping list, we have a locally sourced cal, a really great dried fruit and nut mix that's actually a blend of dried apples, there's craisins, some raisins in there, we have some dried figs, and then it's walnuts, and I have that all listed in the product description. So again, at those times when you're ordering, just make sure to play around a little bit and start clicking on the products that you might want to learn more information about. And the recipe is going to pair just so well with either the chickens or the pork chops that we have to offer. Unfortunately, we cannot upload the recipes themselves for you to download, but if you reach out to us, we're more than happy to send them out as an email, or perhaps we could even send them with your next order. So we'll do whatever we need to in order to make sure you can get a copy of these recipes for the people that you serve. Okay, so here you get to see the cal recipe itself, which is easy and it's quick, but it's so tasty that I promise it'll turn everyone into a cal enthusiast. And there's a variety of different ways that you can bring a recipe kit project idea to your agency. And this way you'll be able to ensure that the clients receive both the recipes and the ingredients that they need to facilitate it. Our recipes always highlight healthy foods, include at least 2 ingredients that you would have on hand to be able to provide. And then there's always just a limited number of ingredients and steps in order to make sure it's a very accessible recipe itself. This slide here shows how one of the pantries I'm working with is incorporating recipe kits into their distribution system. And so you'll see here that they're giving clients the option of the 2 different recipe kits that are made with hard to move items at that location. Marla and I would be more than happy to supply you with the recipes, the bags, and help you with the kit creation to make sure it's a really easy thing to offer to your clients. This slide here shows a different way a pantry I'm working with has incorporated this environment of choice and then recipe kit project to their distribution. They prior operated as a grocery store client choice model, and they struggled with the fact the pandemic was forcing them into this pre-packed bag distribution method because it wasn't meeting the personalized needs or preferences of the community members they served. And so within that circle that you see on the slide, it shows the monthly recipes that were featured for that month. in addition to an optional recipe because they just had such a great variety of food available. And all of their bags were pre-packed with the same ingredients. So everyone received a can of carrots, a can of green beans, peaches, lentils, black beans, etc. In addition to other foods in order to, meet the HIPNAP minimum guidelines. And then the folks would select the frozen protein option of their preference, which would have been the fish, it could have been the ground beef or the chicken. And they were given their pre-packed bag of food, their selection of frozen protein, and then the recipe that was associated with it. I realize that with the way the slide is laid out, it might seem kind of confusing at first, but I worked with the pantry coordinator and volunteers and helped them pack bags until it became second nature. And here is the way the pantry actually promoted their food choices. So they have a standing whiteboard outside with their protein and produce options. And then it's a little hard to read because it got a little pixelated, but it does say that all of the protein options come with a recipe kit you can make at home. And it's become something that people are really excited and look forward to receiving. So it's similar to, the HelloFresh or these other recipe or meal delivery services that you're seeing all over online, except we don't have the creative name that they have for it quite yet. On the right, you'll see just a different style of promoting recipes at your agency. So this one's a little bit more reflective of a restaurant menu board, which is a really fun and creative way to get people excited. If I offered someone some kale, they may be less interested, but if I offered them the full recipe, some sauteed kale and the dried fruit, it's intriguing, and so that makes them more interested in possibly trying it at home. Okay. And so if you've ever met me, or perhaps just through this presentation itself, you can tell that I can talk your ear off all day about food. I get very excited about every single aspect of it. But we can do as a nutrition team a bit more than just, teach you that lentils are delicious. And I promise if we ever talk about them, I will convince you. But in addition to all of that good stuff, we're really here to help you. So we can help you review your current procedures and provide some suggestions and, hands-on assistance for implementing new practices. Right now, I'm working with a number of different pantries that have had to shift their procedures as a result of the pandemic that are still looking to have, the most effective pantry perhaps that they can. And so I'm working with them in a hands-on way to make sure that any suggestions that I might have are actually providing solutions to the challenges that they're facing rather than having more of an out of touch feel to everything. And then the best part is that we have some grant funding that's, available in order to make all of these different things happen. And so in addition to the extra help, there's always the extra materials that you might need. We're more than happy to provide for that. And then since the holidays are coming around, if anyone's interested in some extra resources, we're encouraging either healthy donations or appropriate holiday-based donations, anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay. So we recognize that your commitment to the community and the people you serve. And so we want to let you know that everything everyone here has done in order to continue to stay open during the pandemic is just so wonderful. The things you do for the community, we really highly appreciate. And I know it was mentioned on prior conference calls and on the Zoom call with Elise and Jen yesterday. We really encourage you to revisit your safety plans and make some revisions and make sure everybody's aware of the policies and procedures you have in place. Please let us know though if you need any materials, especially some of these flyers that I have on the screen here. Some of them are available in multiple languages. We just want to make sure that we're helping you if you need it in any way in order to be as safe as possible to continue to even be able to provide these healthy foods for the community. Okay, so this slide here shows the implementation of a safety plan that one of the pantries that I've worked with is using. We know that as the world continues to adapt as a result of the virus, that there's all different methods in place. It's okay if you're relying on pre-packing bags, and I would highly encourage you to contact us in regards to doing that recipe kit packing because it's so much fun. We've had a lot of positive responses so far, but if you're in one of the larger geographic areas we serve where you're comfortable going back to a different style of choice or perhaps, offering more choice, this is, certainly an option of an idea that you can begin to implement. The slide here shows that the pantry created their detailed safety plan and then created a summary of the reopening guidelines. They created an outdoor safety station, and they have an inventory list of refrigerated and frozen food products displayed. This pantry specifically is back to their client choice, but they have moved their shelving unit specifically from where it used to be for the pantry all the way to the door to limit the exposure that anyone would need and prevent people from having to fully go into the building itself. So there's all different ways to implement client choice at this time, only as much as you and your volunteers feel comfortable though, and Caryn's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to review the client choice options. And as Arielle's already mentioned, this is not something that everyone is necessarily able to do right now or desiring to do. Some are, some aren't. Everyone's different in terms of their capacity and where they're at right now. But just as an overall refresher of what the models of client choice typically look like. And then from there, going into ways that they can be modified so that you maybe are just doing partial client choice right now or as much as you can during this time. So we're getting a real quick review. It might be a review for you, or if there are new folks on here that maybe haven't heard this before, just what are the different styles of client choice that can be utilized in a pantry setting. One is called a supermarket or a walk-through style, where clients are able to walk through and actually go by the shelves and select items from the shelves. Again, that's the one that's probably a little bit challenging right now and not necessarily being utilized, but that's what that normally would look like. An inventory style is where a list of available foods would be provided to clients as they arrive. They select from the list and then workers assemble the food bags for them. We see a table model implemented where items are displayed on a table, ideally arranged by food group, where clients can then select from the foods that are available there. And then a window, it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual window. It could just be some system where clients are outside of the pantry area but are able to still view the food items. And from there can indicate which items they would like to select, and those items then can be packaged by a pantry worker. So those are some of the available options. Now, I mentioned in the previous slide about arranging items by food group, and just to explain further what that would look like, if you took those food groups and categorized your shelf-stable product by the different food groups, it makes life a lot easier when it comes to either client choice or when you're having pre-packed bags in order to have your organization process really nicely set up. So again, if this is something that does work, it might not for everyone. What that would look like would be taking your fruits and vegetables and organizing them together. And obviously frozen might not go in that category, but your canned and dried fruits and vegetables. This would include tomato sauce and applesauce and 100% juices that account in this food group as well. And when it comes to those HipNap food choices that are being packed into pantry bags, the things that do not count in this group as a choice would be pickles, and I see I just misspelled that, olives, jams and jellies, fruit-based desserts, dessert toppings, and juices that are not 100% fruit juice. Another category is the protein and dairy group. This is your animal products like beef, pork, poultry, and fish, as well as eggs, milk, cheese, and yogurt. This also includes canned protein items like chicken, tuna, and salmon. And it also includes non-animal items such as beans and tofu, both canned and dried beans. Products that are high in a meat like a chili or a beef stew, and peanut butter. So those are your protein and dairy food group. Items that do not count as a HipNap choice in this group would be protein shakes or those protein nutritional supplements, other soups aside from the chili and the beef stew, and butter. And last is the grain group. So bread, rolls, wraps, tortillas, rice and pasta, cereal and oatmeal, macaroni and cheese, the skillet meals that are available for purchase on our shopping list, as well as those pizza kits can be categorized into the grain group. Now, as I mentioned with the healthy choices slides, we certainly prefer whole grain here and whole wheat, but if that's not always possible, then certainly other grain options are appropriate. But items that do not count as a HipNap choice in this group would be things like granola bars, crackers, cookies, and sweets. So some client choice recommendations if you were trying to pursue it during this time of increased safety. Just a couple of broad recommendations that we had included on a document that we had put out a couple months ago. So again, this is just a refresher of information. One, in order to maintain that physical distancing, but maybe still be providing some element of choice, would be to move the food to a different location. So say you have shelves with wheels that could be relocated in different ways to make them a bit more accessible, or where people don't necessarily have to walk into the pantry but can still view the shelves is an option. Offering a combination of choice as well as pre-bagged is what I'm seeing quite a few places doing, and that's definitely effective. As Arielle was talking about the recipe kits, that's a great way to pre-pack just a few items ahead of time, but still have some level of choice as well. Or trying to stagger clients so that you can have them enter the pantry, but maybe not as many people at one time. Other client choice recommendations, again, these are just sort of broad recommendations that you're likely already addressing, hopefully with your safety plans, would be to limit the need for people to touch things, as far as maybe not selecting their own food to be touching it. Also your clipboards, your pens, things like that, that you can limit how people are engaging with these items so that you don't have to be concerned about too many people. Having your cleaning plan in place for disinfecting surfaces, disinfecting door handles, and other frequently touched items and areas is also important. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to Arielle, who's going to talk a bit more about safety plan implementation and client choice, and have a few really great examples of what some places are currently doing.
Okay, so to finish us off with these examples, these are just some of the pantries I'm working with. I might talk a little bit to you about our pantries I don't actually have pictures of at this time, just because we're in the beginning of our planning and implementation process. But all of these pantries are offering an environment of choice, which we highly recommend, but then within the way that they feel safe in order to do so. So for this first pantry here, you'll see they have their distance markers on the ground. There's a sanitation station located right by that blue door with the sanitizer and extra masks. And individuals are actually not permitted to enter the building. A volunteer sits at the doorway at the table, or at a table like within the doorway there that's blocked by the whiteboard to do the sign-in process. So folks are given just an environment of choice because they can choose what protein and produce options that they would like, which then comes with that pre-packed bag as we spoke about before, and they're given the ability to select a few miscellaneous or non-HIPNAP choices from the shelf that they were able to roll outside. At this pantry here, with their safety plan, they found that during at least this time until we have inclement weather, they're going to move their shelves outside so that clients can view the product, but only their volunteer removes items from the shelf. So it is a little bit like a visual inventory system rather than having things written on a whiteboard. That outdoor environment can offer more of a full client choice experience because you can offer more foods at one time, but it's okay to offer less variety per food group if that makes it easier to either move the food outside, or as a safety precaution if there is any concern that people may linger too long to make selections if they have too many choices in the experience. Okay. For this image here, because only volunteers are permitted to enter the pantry, their whiteboard serves as their inventory list, but it doesn't require a paper exchange from the client to volunteer. If you're currently operating with an inventory list system, that's completely fine, especially if you have great sanitation procedures in place. But we know that some pantries that did offer an inventory system are making some adjustments now because they don't want that exchange of paper between multiple hands to pack the bags. And so the clients get to select their fruit and their veggie choices from the list. Perhaps at this pantry, they might not give the ability to choose, the grain and the protein options, but they're doing the best that they can. I know quite a few pantries are implementing a hybrid option where they're trying to do a bit of an inventory, but they're also doing what I just kind of call the shout method, where they're having a communication and then shouting into the building to try to, make some personalization choices. Other pantries are trying to do a likes or dislikes form that they can have on hand at the pantry for the individual to try not to give them things that either aren't culturally or medically based appropriate for the individual that they're serving. And I know it was mentioned yesterday, so there's going to be quite a bit of interest that we certainly are doing our best to research an online platform for ordering for our pantries. At this time, we are at that initial development, but it's something that we're hoping to research quite quickly. We know it wouldn't be a solution to everybody that we serve. However, it could really help open up the availability of volunteers to work more hands-on with the folks that would not have access to the technology to place an order in advance, you know, to make sure everyone has the similar experience. And then this picture here shows a produce room that is very beautifully stocked. So at this pantry, only one client can shop in the produce room at a time, and the volunteers following a lot of safety protocols. They're wearing gloves and masks in order to pack the food. So within this environment of choice, again, it's very visual, so they can really see their choices. You know, a lot of the food actually looks quite great, and so they're really interested in order to take different things home. Okay, so these were just a few examples. Any idea that we might bring, you know, to your agency would be individualized and personalized. So, you know, don't feel discouraged if you felt like some of the things we spoke about today possibly wouldn't, you know, apply appropriately to you. But we really want to thank you for your time today and every day. I know that the chat box got a little bit active as we were talking. So at this time, we'd really like to address your questions. You're welcome to either unmute yourself or continue to put questions in that chat box. You're also welcome to contact any of us at any time, and our contact information has been included on the slide here.
Can the slides be emailed? Do I need to email out for that?
No, you don't have to email out for that, because I'm actually thrilled that you're interested in the slides. We will be posting the recordings of these Zoom meetings, so you'll be able to both reference the slides and the discussion that went along with them.
Okay, yeah, because I tried to take notes, but I wasn't fast enough.
Well, thank you for taking notes and for attending. And if you have any additional questions, of course, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're really excited to work with our agencies.
Okay, thank you so much.
This is Liz Colkin calling from Little Portion Friary. We have never seen sliced bread on our list of things we can get from the food bank. Is that something we could get?
Ooh, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned sliced bread, because it's certainly a product that we really don't have to offer you very frequently. And a lot of that has to do with just how quickly bread does go stale, and then the challenges to source it. But there is a retail partnership talk coming up that I think you'd be really interested in. The majority of our pantries get bread through their retail partnerships. And so this talk is, I apologize for not having the schedule right in front of me, is it Thursday? So that one's taking place on Thursday, and so I think that would be a great one for you. Caryn and I, though, have been trying to brainstorm additional grain options that we can offer. So if anyone does have more ideas, you know, please let us know. And it's just great to know in general that you're looking for bread, even if it's not something we're sure we can source through the warehouse at this time.
We're also looking for fresh eggs and fresh fruit.
Okay, Caryn is taking notes, so this is perfect. Thank you so much.
Last time we got an order, we got a case of grapes, and that was absolutely terrific. Our guests devoured it. But you don't often have cases of fresh fruit. And the same thing is true of eggs. Fresh eggs are something we could use in a myriad of applications, but we don't seem to be able to get them from the food bank as often as we'd like.
Okay, that's so, I mean, thank you again for letting us know. I think you could be correct, as in today when I looked at our shopping list, I don't think we had a ton of fresh fruit options, but I know that we've been working to increase those, and the produce boxes that we had been bringing in would have, you know, a mix of the fresh fruits and the veggies. I'm not sure if that's on the shopping list right now, but you can look forward to likely seeing those again in some format. And then with those produce boxes, with it being a mix of fruits and veggies, just know that you can actually separate them out. And so each individual doesn't need a full produce box. If you have the ability to do that, that's fantastic. But I do have a lot of pantries that were opening those boxes up and then giving a choice out, because I certainly do agree. I really love making sure that our agencies have access to both the fresh fruits and the veggies, and the eggs are certainly a big favorite, but I'm just not able to speak to why we don't have them at this time, but we'll explore definitely doing our best to get them for you.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Colleen from Native American Community Services. I have a question about the ordering pages when we're ordering. Is there any way that when you're doing your labels or your description that you can put in there somehow that it's, whether it's like a soup kitchen quantity, you know, because some of them are bigger quantities and we can't break them up at our own place. So, you know, that way we know maybe we shouldn't be ordering that for our center. Is there any way that some kind of a notation can be put on that form somewhere?
Yeah, Colleen, I'm so happy that you mentioned that. I would say that the addition of more descriptors in the images, it's a really new project that we took on as the pandemic started. So it's just been a couple of months of trialing and rolling things out. But one of my goals has been to differentiate a little bit better between the different products available. And so I did start with a few of them, but you probably just didn't know, because if you don't know to either click on the description, or if you didn't see the image icon, but we'll make sure to stay a little bit better on top of that so you don't end up with products that are really big that you didn't expect to see. On the order form, as you're viewing it, there is a category though that will tell you a little bit more about product sizing, but the title doesn't actually follow as you scroll down the list, but you would be able to see like 1 by 20 pounds. I know we have like the really big bags of strawberries right now, and it did get a little tricky for some folks because we had the big bags of strawberries at the same time as the regular small ones. And so I did do an icon for the big bag, but we'll consider like trying to make it as clear as possible in the future. Just know that we can't always change the product title, but we can certainly do our best in a descriptor or an image.
Thank you.
Thank you. These were great questions. So if anyone's sitting on a question that they were only thinking about asking, but they're not positive that they want to ask, it's a really good time, because so far, you know, we've really appreciated your feedback.
About a couple more questions about the meal kits.
Sure.
So how you don't purchase them as a meal kit, you just look on those little icons and it can suggest a meal kit? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, that is correct. I'm not going to pretend I don't have a long-term goal to try to find a way that we can offer them prepackaged, but with all the different grant sources, there's a lot of challenges that we're looking to try to overcome. And so that'll have to be a down the line goal for me. But it will tell you specifically what's available. We do know that the shopping list can change pretty quickly. We're working on having it updated, you know, at least once a week, if not maybe twice a week, depending on the time of the nutrition team here. But if you ever wanted to, you know, touch base with one of us right before you place an order, we can always provide some really personal based recommendations. I have a few pantries that reach out to me right before they place an order, just in case there have been some changes, or maybe perhaps the recipes that are suggested just aren't as of much interest to them. We definitely will do our best to personalize. I do even have some agencies that will just kind of place their order and say, what can you do for me? And then we certainly do our best to find some great options for them too. But you do have to put them together on your own. The benefit though is that if we're working with your inventory that you have, we have some locations that instead of highlighting multiple recipes at once, they just pack all of their bags for the month exactly the same way in order to enforce that they have equality and equity at the pantry. And every pantry bag is packed with a recipe ingredient of the month. And so there's all different ways to approach the project.
So then how does that work based on family size? If they're packing them all the same, are these recipes set for like families of 4? Or, I mean, how are they set for serving size, each one of these recipes?
A great question. I would say that the average for, the recipe is set for a 4, but then if you have a larger family and you're getting a little bit more, then you'll have more to serve at the table. The best way to kind of balance things out for everybody, I have some pantries, like that one slide that I'll admit was kind of confusing, but the layout did help me try to describe what I was trying to say. They made sure that everyone got those baseline ingredients, and then they did make their own choices for, to fill up the rest of HipNap, so it doesn't have to be identical. I do have one pantry that's going more in an identical fashion, and then people for that month will just get duplicate bags if they are a larger family. So you can actually personalize it to the way that you'd like to do it, and you find, meets the needs of your community best. A lot of my pantries are taking the different approaches just because for some of them it's a struggle just to stay open, and for others they have higher capacity. I hope that answered the question. Let me know if it didn't.
No, it did. Thank you.
So at this time, if we answered all of the burning questions that you have, it sounds like we might be able to end this session. But like I did say before, we'd be more than happy to continue speaking with you. We understand that a lot of the things that we did speak about here would need some individualization and personalization. And then I don't want anyone to feel like they have to jump into something really dramatic right away. I have a pantry I'm actually going to this afternoon and again tomorrow, where we're working on our next steps. And our first effort is just going to be like organizing foods by food group and then evaluating how we'd like to move forward. I actually have 2 pantries that are in the initial stage where we're going to work together to make a plan to move forward. So I don't want anyone to think that they have to jump into any of these project ideas, like right into the middle, or just, accomplish as much as some of the pantries that have been continuously working with us have. Okay. But we look forward to sending out, the copy of the Zoom session, the copy of our slides, and of course our recipes. Marla and I are always more than happy to print them for you. We know that not everyone has access to a colored printer, and we can either drop them off or mail them, any way to get you access to the recipes that we can develop for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You too.